Joining me now at the table, Mara Gillespie, former advisor to both Speaker of the House John Boehner, former Speaker of the House, of course, and former Congressman Adam Kinzinger, and Chuck Rocha, newly minted as a CBS News political contributor. Mara, you're minted as well. He's just newly minted. That's all.
All the new face.
So it's a newly minted contributor.
Here we go.
Chuck, here we go.
Sound smart.
Let's get it on. Dick Durbin not seeking re-election, a surprise to no one.
Right.
Important figure, but there's going to be a mad scramble in Illinois to replace him.
I was on the phone with folks in Illinois today, and there's a lot of folks thinking about running, and folks that are calling me that nobody's talking about. So there's probably going to be, let me use my fancy word, a plethora of candidates from the three amigos.
That's what happens when you become a newly minted CBS News contributor.
Words.
Yes.
Talk to Ed O'Keefe.
We give a
and
small
Finn
dictionary with big words.
There's a plethora of folks running, and a lot of folks from every side of the aisle. So what's really interesting is what kind of Democrat. This is a safe seat. Whoever wins the primary will win. Will it be a conservative Democrat? Will it be a white Democrat? Will it be a black Democrat? Will it be all shapes and forms of Democrat? It's really going to be interesting to watch from the outside because more importantly than winning this election will be the election to replace him in the Senate, who will be the heir apparent to Chuck Schumer.
Exactly. And related to that, Maura, I promise we're going to get to you, but this DNC drama I referred to in the open. David Hogg, who sat here last week and talked about a $20 million effort that he would be willing to undertake as a vice chairman within the Democratic National Committee to primary and seek the defeat of asleep at the wheel House Democrats. And I said, can you name me one? He said, no, I hope the ones who know who they are will bow out. Right. Dick Durbin is in the Senate. I'm not saying he's an asleep at the wheel Democrat, but he is of that seniority that suggests he doesn't have what it takes to carry on for this moment. David Hogg is talking about that. We heard the new chairman of the Democratic National Committee saying unequivocally, you cannot do that. This is injurious to what the party's trying to accomplish. What is your take on what David Hogg is up to?
I watched your interview, and I thought that you pushed him hard, and I thought that was the right thing to do because we want to know what is the details of this. If you're going to get $20 million, wouldn't that be better spent as a DNC officer against Republicans? If you really want to change this party, it's not the candidates. It's the folks behind the candidates who haven't changed in 50 years. Change a few of those folks. Get some younger consultants, some newer ideas, and we'd probably start doing more videos on the TikToks or over on Instagrams.
As a Republican, Mara, how do you watch this DNC internal feud?
It's great news for Republicans. I mean, quite frankly, if you're going to go after, you are a minority. You don't have a single, leadership position essentially to have a seat at the table in terms of branches of government. And you're going to use $20 million to go after your own and make your minority even smaller.
Cannibalize your own
But
party.
you're basically making that a smaller number. Why would you do that? So it's great for Republicans because they're going to see that and go, we don't need to spend money there. They're going after their own. That's great for Republicans. But
is there any possibility that you knock out someone who is not as feisty, not as aggressive, and that Democrat who wins in that contest could be a more formidable person?
And maybe that is, but the strategy...
That's David Hogg's perspective.
For sure, but the strategy behind it is just deteriorating what's already a very confused Democratic Party. They don't have a leadership to look to. Or they don't have one particular person that they're saying, okay, here's what we're going to do. Here's the path forward. Here's how we're going to identify new voters and to get people on board. And it makes me think of when, John Boehner was Speaker and he was a prolific fundraiser. But he had a policy about getting involved during primary races.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. He felt very strongly about it, as you recall. And it was because why set up divisions within the party structure itself.
Right. You've got to row in the same direction.
Correct.
It's hard enough to win. Yeah. Let me ask you about what's confronting House and Senate Republicans in the next couple of weeks, because they have to make really discernible progress on the reconciliation package. The president calls this one big deal, whatever. That's what he calls it. It's a big piece of legislation with lots of tax cuts and other things in it. It has been general. Now it needs to get specific, and some hard choices need to be made.
And they're hearing from their constituents. They're going home and they're having these town halls and they're hearing the concerns. You're seeing it in poll numbers that things are starting to slip a little bit. So while they still are doing better than, Trump numbers are better than Joe Biden's were when he was president, but they are slipping. So I think Republicans need to be looking at that. They need to be listening to their constituents at home and saying, how are we going to get through this Medicare conversation, this Medicaid conversation that Democrats are going to lobby at them?
Chuck.
Every election cycle, there's a pivot big piece of legislation that we make TV commercials about. We will make commercials against Republicans on every single detail of the plan you're describing. It will be the bedrock of the way Democrats say, this is the difference between us and Republicans. You've covered the ads forever of us taking grandma in a wheelchair and saying they're going to cut that Social Security. You better get grandma out there to vote. This will be the kind of details that we want to see to make ads that say they're not with you, they're trying to cut all this stuff, and we're with you.
How big a deal was it from your perspective, Chuck, then you, Mara, that Elon Musk on an earnings call with Tesla investors this week said his visibility, his role in the Department of Government Efficiency is going to reduce dramatically? Is that a political moment or just an economic moment?
I think it's a little of both. I think when you are a stockholder, and that's who he was talking to, and you see such a plunge, you have to give them something. And I think that was him. Whether he steps out right now or 3 months from now, he needed to tell them he's going to step back, I think, to save his own hide.
And Mara, do you think the Doge story is nearing its conclusion?
So initially, they were supposed to end on July 4th of 2026. It does seem as though that the appetite for what Doge has done thus far is waning, and even within White House conversations and in the public space. And again, with Tesla being where it's at, I think that both President Trump and Elon Musk need to dial it back.
And a couple of level-setting numbers. The goal was $1 trillion in federal savings. I think they may reach. And I'm not suggesting that $100 billion isn't serious money. $100 billion is serious money. I'm not sure they're going to get there. But that's sort of where they are. Maybe 100, maybe 150 when it all shakes out. If it all shakes out, and there's a huge if there, that's a big gap.
But the issue has been from the start was that the operation of the Doge entity was to provide recommendations to the different departments and give them a way
not
to
operate the
not to
saw
just go
yourself.
in there, cut it out themselves, but they were supposed to go in there and say, here's where you can make cuts to provide more efficient operations here in this department, and here's how you could do it here, or here's how you can take USAID, and this was never a suggestion, but I think they should have done something where you take USAID and put it under the umbrella of the U.S. State Department, make it an arm of diplomacy. There are things they could have done that they just didn't do.
Very rarely do I get outside of this bubble and leave my house on Capitol Hill, but today I had to drive my truck out to drop off a fly rod out at Tyson's Corner, and when I was there, bringing it back to this Doge thing, there were folks standing on the corner in Tysons, Virginia saying, Elon Musk has your Social Security number. They were protesting Elon Musk on a Friday afternoon on the side of a busy interstate. I'm like, something's going on here if folks are just standing out here on a hot Friday afternoon in Virginia saying, Elon Musk has your Social Security number.
Chuck, you're going to get the last word on this because we had a conversation at this table with Scott McFarlane and Camila Montoya Galvez about the politics of the immigration conversation. What's your gut sense of it where it is right now?
I think it's moving away from Donald Trump. He has went after and after and after this to where now people were all about getting bad people out of the country, but now they're not about folks stepping around due process. And for the first time in a Fox poll today, he's underwater on the immigration issue.
Mara, quickly.
It's exactly what Chuck said, is that it is starting to wane with people. They are concerned about how far the line goes, where does the line end, and what happens when it starts to impact them personally now and down the road.
Mara Gillespie, Chuck Rocha.
Thank
Newly
you.
minted.
Newly minted.
Always minted. Mara Gillespie.
Thank you.